who's organizing all of this. Joining us now to discuss what's going on all of these college campuses and Joe Biden's big plans for the United States, Congresswoman Kat Cammack is here from Florida. Congresswoman, good to have you back with us.
Hey, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So Biden, this very day, Joe Biden just announced another tranche of loan forgiveness for college students all across the country, just in time for them to join Hamas. What is this? Like, what are they? First of all, it seems so politically stupid to be doing giveaways to the very people who are causing so much chaos. But what do you make of that decision?
I think, one, absolutely ridiculous that you have hardworking American families who have saved, who have sacrificed and done everything right in order to put their children through school. Or if you're one of those students like myself, I put myself through school and made a lot of sacrifices, worked multiple jobs to do it.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the receiving end of having to pay for a bunch of underwater basket weaving degrees and gender studies degrees, of which, my local barista or, hometown Hamas protester is now, that living their best life.
Sure.
So it's really frustrating. It is incredibly frustrating, but I think it screams desperation on the part of the Biden administration. This latest tranche of student so-called forgiveness. We know that there's no such thing as forgiveness. It's a debt transfer.
Yeah.
And so he sees that he is losing support amongst his base. He sees that this is really the only thing he can hang his hat on. But at the end of the day, they're abandoning him in droves. And there's no amount of loan forgiveness, and I'm using air quotes here, that is going to save him from this downward spiral.
So as a member of Congress, are you allowed to bribe voters with taxpayer money, or is that only a Biden thing?
Oh, bless their hearts, as we say in the South. It is absolutely unreal to me that this has been allowed. I mean, you will probably remember Nancy Pelosi, who, when the Democrats controlled the House, they said point blank, and this was Nancy Pelosi saying it, that the president doesn't have the authority to do it. Well, what changed? What happened? And why is not Nancy speaking out about this? And what's really frustrating, particularly for me as a member of the House who does not engage in earmarks, I have never submitted an earmark in my life. I've got Republican colleagues that do that, and it's their way of kind of, bringing home the bacon to their district. And I don't care if they say, well, I can spend money better than this president can. Yeah. Their tune certainly changes when the administration does. So either you earmark every line of the federal budget or none at all.
Well, you wouldn't have to bring home bacon if you didn't steal it from me to begin with. So maybe just keep the bacon at my house. Hey, Kat Cammack, Congresswoman Cammack, let me talk a little bit more with you about something else Biden is doing. We get a really big, I think, breaking news alert overnight that Joe Biden is now apparently considering importing some percentage of Gaza into the United States of America. They're in the process of working up a plan to bring what they refer to as Gaza refugees to the United States. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the Arab states around Gaza, and specifically Egypt, they're refusing to take people from Gaza. So why are they refusing, and why is this a good deal for America?
Oh, it's not a good deal. It's just not a good deal. We know that we're already dealing with 10.8 illegals in the country that are unvetted, not to mention the 2 million plus on top of that gotaways that are certainly on every bad list you can imagine, whether it's for drug trafficking, sex trafficking, weapons trafficking, you name it. There is a real threat that will occur here, an attack that will occur here in the United States. And even Director Wray of the FBI has said it's not a matter of if, it's when. Why in the heck, when the neighbors of these people won't take them in, as you so pointedly pointed out, why in the heck would we take them in? I just don't understand the objective here from the Biden administration, and it really makes you wonder who's running the show over there.
How would they
because it seems like you've got some straight out of college, 20 some odds that are just virtue signaling.
So another piece is, how would somebody from Gaza qualify for refugee status in the United States? Because as I understand it, the people who live in Gaza, they're the ones who chose Hamas to lead their government. And they're supportive of Hamas. It's not that they're living under a, quote, repressive regime. So therefore, they need to flee and they're refugees. My understanding is that the people of Gaza are broadly supportive of the Hamas regime. So how would they be refugees?
Well, and that's the million-dollar question. I think in large part, this is another way that the Biden administration scratches that itch of the base that they see on these college campuses, many of which these aren't college students. These are paid activists, by George Soros. And I would put money that there is foreign money as part of this whole effort to disrupt college campuses, this pro-Hamas sympathizer movement that we're seeing.
Yeah.
I would venture that because it has gotten so out of control, and it's, of course, happening most aggressively in the blue cities and states, of which, again, Biden is most concerned about his base. And so in Florida, for example, we're not tolerating this crap. You saw President Ben Sasse from the University of Florida, go Gators. They come out and they say, listen, we arrested 9 protesters. These people clearly knew the consequences. We told them that there would be, and now I can guarantee you they are not pre-law majors, but they've now gotten a taste of the law. That is what needs to happen. And that's why, he's freaking out over the political outcomes and fallout from this. And so I think that this is his way to virtue signal to that group that, hey, we're really struggling to find ways to appease you guys. So we're going to fly in the people that you claim to stand up for. Little do these protesters on these campuses realize, especially when you have the LGBTQ plus community advocating for these people, that these people will literally throw them off the tops of buildings. And so it's going to be a real harsh reality, smack in the face type reality, if these two groups ever actually do meet. One
of the unfortunate realities of all the protests we're seeing, although there are apparently some outside influences pushing this, a lot of this comes from inside the colleges. I mean, these are things that students are learning inside of these colleges. And as you know, Congresswoman, you've got these institutions of higher learning. They collectively take over hundreds of billions of dollars every year from the United States taxpayer, federal funding, and then they turn around and use it to foment this type of propaganda and radicalism. At what point do we cut off federal funding for all of these colleges? Why are we paying for such a crappy product?
Well, that's a question I've been asking for a while, and I know we've been supportive of legislation that actually restricts federal funding to institutions that do ridiculous things like allow Confucius Institutes on their campus, that don't take action against people that are embedded into these universities that are part of China's Thousand Talents program. Let's not even get into the real issue of we have tenured professors that basically read Rules for Radicals decades ago and took it to heart, and they really believe that they'll be able to indoctrinate a small army to basically take on, the government and the man, and it's going to be a full-blown revolution in the United States. That is their utopia of getting these kids radicalized to the point that they can become professional activists instead of productive members of society. It's wild and really disappointing. I think we in the House of Representatives have to exercise the power of the purse.
Of course.
Absolutely.
But this week, you've got a Speaker Johnson-led effort to go after anti-Semitism. They want to pass a piece of legislation called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. Mm-hmm. And everybody condemns anti-Semitism, or at least sane people do. You should. But it sounds like a message vehicle more so than the kind of thing that would actually fix this problem, which you're talking about, which is get the federal funding out of there. We should stop subsidizing this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's important that we lay a marker down, put people on the record. I think that's a key part of it. But the real meat and potatoes of this effort is going to be in the appropriations process. And for me, I believe we should go through all 12 appropriation bills with a fine-tooth comb, really start cutting from a perspective of zero-based budgeting and saying, listen, this has been done for decades. Why are we still doing this? And start from that approach, because we continually look at the previous year's baseline and it's like, oh, if we shave a cent here, we can say we cut. It's just nonsense. It's all smoke and mirrors. So, yes, this bill today, it doesn't solve all the problems, but I think it's an important bill to take a stand. And I think including a definition of anti-Semitism gives some teeth for these administrators and for the entities that actually fall under the Department of Education, of which I'm not a fan of, but here we are. It gives them the ability to actually enforce some element of statutes under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So I think it's a good way to kind of bolster the efforts of holding these protesters' feet to the fire, particularly those that engage in incredibly hateful rhetoric that is violating the free speech and constitutional rights of fellow students on campus. I think that that's something that is a direction we can go.
Yeah.
But as far as the federal funding element, we have to do that through the appropriations process.
By the way, I just want to pause on the concept because I want to make sure I understand it. Obviously, if somebody says something that's hateful, that alone is not a violation of the law. It's protected by the First Amendment to say something hateful, as awful as it might be. You actually have to break a law to be held accountable by the law, right?
Correct. Absolutely. And there is no official definition of anti-Semitism as it relates to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. This actually uses an internationally recognized, actually the State Department recognizes this, it's been used in other federal capacities. It gives that definition with this at the same time protecting constitutionally protected speech.
Got it. All right. Well, Congresswoman Kat Cammack, thank you as always for your time. Really appreciate you joining us today on yet another chaotic day in the United States of America. Thank you very much.